We just got another Crow movie in theaters this past weekend, so is it worth the watch? Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen The Crow. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Or is it somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But going right into the synopsis. When Eric and Shelley are brutally murdered, Eric gets a second chance to redeem the love of his life and manages to go on a killing spree in order to make the wrong things right. And getting right into positives, I just gotta say Rubert Sanders seemed to be a good director for what he is bleeding out of this dark and bleak world. Just what you get out of this modern setting outside of the 1989 where it initially started. Just what we get out of the performances and the cinematography, just the look of the whole environment looks pretty good for what you're asking out of this area, and the soundtrack as a whole. It's just how we get it directed. It just performs well. Bill Skarsgaard and Talia are just good as lovers, how they perform that on screen, and just the natural progression. And something to note is, of course, this is the fifth film in, and so being able to pull off something that's different because it's a remake, rehashing the same story, just has its own little quirks and nuances that does make its differences and does stretch into different parts of the living world and the dead world, and how they visualize that on screen becomes something of a treat, especially in particular scene near the end, or just the imagination of the world itself, and how we just get the natural progression of the story. It delivers on the front where Bill Skarsgård, it just delivers great as the Crow, as the progression, what you're getting out of that character, and just the features and everything. It's nearly flawless, just what we're getting out of the execution of the look to the film as a whole, and just bleeds out this nice dark world. And what was more surprising is it's a very vital bloodbath of a film that can give and deliver on the shock value of what you want if you're looking into this as a horror film, and just bleeding in some of those lines along the way, what you're expecting maybe out of the genre or just out of the character of the Crow, which Bill Skarsgård, he's definitely not the worst of the Crow characters that has been performing in the past. But going into the mixed elements, I commented on the style of the story, but there's some aspects to that style that feel repetitive to the motions of where you're going in with the Crow movies in general, and just not necessarily even getting a sequel, but just rehashing the same thing over and over with a different actor. And well, there's not necessarily complaints about what we get out of Bill Skarsgård or the performances, the chemistry that's presented on screen. There's just aspects to the story that repetitive, or we've seen this before, and so even all the nuances they add in don't necessarily add in extra special effects or ideas, that even though we're getting a modern take where there's special things that are going on that we weren't able to see in the past, or tropes that you see about how he gets injured and how he has to heal himself in order to have that invisibility or the self-healing power. It just goes about certain lines that, yes, that's a cool new thing that you're adding in, but that doesn't mean it really saves the film from feeling like something that didn't necessarily need to be made. And certain ideas with the look of the film, yes, it's presented well, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of flavor with the cinematography or where you're taking the different colors. It just feels like a whole lot of black at different points, or you're filled in with different bland rooms that don't feel as decorated to this natural style of what you might be wanting, especially for something that's more stylized or something more decorated for what this type of thing could decorate the town to be. Whereas the original just did a lot more with the style of the town, and also Brandon Lee's performance as the original Crow simply cannot be topped, and so it's hard to compare just the general lines of this, of what you're expecting. And Bill Skarsgård, he deserves his own place in what he does with that performance, but still a question of whether this story needed to be made. Which takes me into the negatives, to which there are some aspects of the film just going throughout where it feels overdrawn what they do at the beginning. The first act is essentially just a love relationship between Bill Skarsgård playing the Crow before he becomes the Crow, and Talia and her performance, just their chemistry on screen. And so for a good portion of the film, they try and convince us this is a relationship you care for, and this will be the outcome of him trying to pursue the redemption and reviving the love of his life, and trying to create a good premise that really establishes in our relationship. But with the writing that is to be had with the story, how certain things play out, it just does not work quite as effectively, because even though their performances are great, the writing doesn't convince me. They absolutely are head over heels. The way they go in together, the way they meet, and the progression throughout that. I know there may be some parts of the timeline that we're not seeing within what is shown, but that's where it feels very average for not necessarily their performances, but the way their writing or dialogue takes them back from really being adequate to be that head over heels type of love that we want to see the redemption, that we really can sink in our teeth around what we're getting from Bill Skarsgård, his performance to save the love of his life from all that's going on. And so just the way that all progresses just lacks its substance. And so when we get that, as well as the villains, what they're doing, there's a little bit to them, but not too much that I can really surface something that really brings and stands out this film from the others, or even just as a film, just really popping out. And well, yes, there's certain aspects here and there that can redeem some of the negative elements, some of the films that make it feel familiar. It just doesn't win my heart over at the end of the day, which means I have to rate The Crow a simply 5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of The Crow. Was it good? Was it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? So that's just all. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're ready to join in Film Closure community, where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all. Make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.